Hey everyone, welcome back to the Female Founder World podcast. It's Jasmine here. I'm the same person that is on the show every single day. I host it. And today I've got a really fun conversation. It's with Mady from the OK Sis podcast. She hosts that pod with her sister Scout. And in addition to doing that, she is just casually starting a tech company. It's an app called Camber, and basically it's where you go to share, travel recommendations with your friends. Basically, it's like you can search a map, you can find what's in your area when you're planning places, when you're traveling, you can look up what's in the towns that you're visiting. I have just gone through and put in a bunch of my New York City recommendations, and now I'm going through and putting in all of the places I love in Italy and London and all of the good stuff that normally you'd have to I'd have to screenshot a notes list and send it to you over Instagram DM or go through a random long highlights reel on Insta to get it. This app is so much better. All right, let's get into the episode.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Awesome. Great. Mady, I haven't been nervous for an interview in a while, but I actually do feel quite nervous because I listened to you guys, you and your sister on OK Sis, and I feel like I'm just getting started with the podcasting thing. So I'm a little bit nervous for this interview.
Jasmine, that is, it never gets old when people say that to us because we're two Jewish sisters from San Diego. We're no one. And then when people we're both in Geneva in the community app. It's my favorite community app. And people will send messages and be like, oh my God, does anyone else freak out when Scout and Mady respond to you on Geneva? And I'm like, guys, hello? What? It's great. Well, it's so great to meet you. And I'm not scary, I promise. Don't be nervous.
So we've established you're a podcast host, and I am actually going to ask some questions about the podcast for my own personal gain in a little bit. But I want to kick off and talk first about Camber because you are a recent tech entrepreneur. So tell us what you're building.
Oh, yes. So I am in the very, very early stages of building my travel recommendations app called Camber. So Camber is the new way to share your favorite places with your friends. We like to call it the platform for finding new places with familiar faces. And so if you've ever texted a friend for travel recs or ever been on the receiving end of that text, which I'm sure everyone listening has, then Camber is for you. No more disjointed Google Docs or screenshots of the Notes app or just email threads. You can put all of your favorite places in Camber and then follow your friends. And my favorite feature is the map view because yes, you can, have a Google Maps list. One, are you going to follow your friends on Google Maps? No. And two, I want to see an aggregation of all my friends' favorite places in one place. So with the map, something that's so cool is that you could be in a new part of your city and then say, hey, there's a coffee shop that 5 of my friends have recommended that's literally right next to me. I'm going to go check it out. Right. So in this day and age, when there is so much information online when it comes to travel and when it even just comes to discovery and local places, hidden gems, everyone just ends up texting their friends. So Camber is that place to house and organize all that information.
I love that. We, in the Australians in New York Facebook community and community in general, there is a document floating around that's a map of New York with all the different boroughs, and it has the best spots to go everywhere. And I'm visualizing that in app form, and it just makes so much sense, of course.
Yes. And having it on the go, first of all, I'm going to have to get my hands on that list. I need that to be put it in Camber ASAP. And the reason that it is a mobile app, we have dreams of making it a web app as well, because we definitely know that people plan a lot on their desktop. But the reason that it's, a mobile app is because you want these places on the go and also to see exactly where they are in reference to your current location.
Are you building this yourself? Do you have a team? Who is behind this?
Yeah. So my co-founder and I, Lauren, we are the two founders of Camber. We worked together at a previous startup. We worked in fashion wholesale in a tech company that was working in the fashion industry. And we just both worked so well together. So as we moved on from that job, we both knew we wanted to start something of our own. And I was always the person that Lauren would text for Rex. We always have that friend and that person. And, I would send her the Google Docs, I would send her all the things, and we just realized there needs to be a more streamlined way to do this. So both of us sought out to create Camber. We were doing it on the side for about 2 years, and we worked with an agency to create all the UI UX, basically design out all the screens as well as do the mobile app development. So it took about 2 years to get us to an MVP and to get us into the beta app in the version that it is today. And then about 5 months ago, we went into a public beta. So anyone listening can download the beta app and play around and become a beta tester. And so I've been working on it full time ever since we went into test flight, into the beta, and it's been a crazy ride. We're gearing up to launch into the App Store, and as an early stage founder, I'm in that time that people say where you don't know anything and you're just figuring out how to do everything. And so it is really just me. And we are hiring a founding engineer. We're going to bring the development in house, and hiring is a whole, I'm like HR, I'm like, investor, I'm trying to get investment money. I'm not like a pitch person. I'm like marketing. I'm like on the TikTok. It's your brain as an entrepreneur and as a founder, especially in the beginning, is definitely stretched. So, yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts as an early stage founder for
You
sure.
got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something that you said there around you used an agency for the tech in the beginning. And that is something that, like, I have spoken to different people building tech, and there are definitely two schools of thought around whether you need someone who's a co-founder who has that like tech and development skill, or whether you should outsource it. How did you find working with an agency on that?
Yeah. So there's definitely pros and cons. There's so many. That's the beautiful thing about startups and about businesses, is that it's a scary thing, and the beautiful thing is that there's no one way and one roadmap. You kind of have to figure out what works for you. Agencies, one, it is really a great avenue for, in terms of the cost efficiency. They typically, when you outsource, it is less costly than hiring a whole entire internal team, right? So when we were first starting, to get to an MVP, you don't really want to throw so much money into it, just because then you're still proving out product market fit. You're still trying to figure out if this is something people would enjoy and actually want. So the reason you build a minimal viable product is so that it's not supposed to be perfect, right? So the agency was an amazing I would recommend it. It was an amazing first step to get us just a working prototype, or just anything that we could, get it out of our heads and into an actual tangible thing. So we found this agency because we first worked, actually the first step we ever did was the brand. If you've ever gone to Camber's Instagram or seen the website,
It's beautiful.
branding, thank you. Branding was something that was so important to us because yes, Camber is a app that you can save places to, but it's more than that. We wanted it to feel a sense of community, a sense of belonging, like people gravitated towards it and felt so compelled and excited to share their favorite places on it and have a digital identity on it. So the branding was key, and we worked with this small agency called Break Maiden who did Olipop. I don't know if you know the brand Olipop. It's like the um, like healthy soda, and we just love
Yeah.
Olipop's. We love Olipop's branding, so we reached out to the agency that did it. So they did Camber's branding, and then they worked with an agency that does web development and mobile app development. So we were introduced that way. And they also really understood design. Design was at the forefront of a lot of what they did. So that felt really good to us because they were going to be able to take the vision of the brand and translate that into actual screens and user flows and make it make sense, in the context of what we were trying to get the user to do. So that was how we started working with an agency. And at the stage that we're at now, where we're about to move into the app store, we really do need to hire internally and hire that, technical co-founder. Um, you are right to, say that a lot of people, that is their advice is to hire a technical co-founder off the bat. It's true, because you really can't raise money unless you have that tech in house. You can't really like apply to certain accelerators. It's very difficult to apply to certain accelerators like YC and things of that nature. So yes, we are hiring for those reasons, but also because we want someone to be a partner with us, to be on this founding team with us in this journey. And, they're going to have such an impact on the product. Obviously, they're going to be managing the entire mobile app infrastructure. So this hire is so critical for us, and we want them to be this partner. We want them to collaborate with us. We weren't ever going to just hire just an engine, no, like just a random engineer. This person has to be bought into the it's a very risky time in the business. So that's kind of what our thinking was. I think agencies are so good to get you up and started. They work fast, they work efficiently, and then once you grow, you prove product market fit, you get some beta testers, and you're like, okay, let's build this out and do it.
Let's talk about that beta testing phase now. We don't have a ton of tech founders on the pod. Like a lot of the women that we speak to are in the CPG space. So I always really love to get into the weeds with how you actually test out a tech product. I know now like anyone can download it and test it out, but was it literally you handpicking some friends and being like, hey, come download this thing and tell me what you think? Or how do you structure a beta program?
Yes. So when you create an app, you want to go into beta because, as I mentioned, it's a minimal viable product. It's a very like pared down version of what you're actually going to be building, and there's probably going to be bugs. And when you put beta, it kind of lowers the expectations a little bit, kind of lowers the pressure of, and people know that it's going to be a little buggy. So you have that confidence that you can just kind of put something out there, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? And it's also a more controlled environment, and it feels a lot more intimate, and you have a better grasp on the users, what their behaviors are, and all of that. So yeah, the very beginning, we just gave it to friends and family, did a survey, spoke to as many people as we could, and then we opened it up to the public. Basically, anyone can download it on TestFlight and become a beta tester. And you know, very tactically, you hook up your back end to an analytics platform. We use Mixpanel. It's an amazingly user friendly way to visualize data and create dashboards and reports. So I would highly recommend, if you're a tech founder, to look into that platform because it really helps to analyze your users, how they are behaving on the app. And then I personally email every single person that downloads
I was
the
going to
app.
say, are you like, actually speaking with them one on one in that kind of way? Yeah.
Yes. So 100%. I hold office hours every Monday and Friday, so anyone can put time on my calendar to chat with me. A lot of people have done it, and it's been so fun just to even meet people and see who they are and see who, connect with awesome people. But I personally email every single beta tester that downloads the app, to schedule time, to see if they want to schedule time to chat with me. And then we just released a new version to the beta environment. That is the version we're going to be going to the App Store with. So I'm going to be scheduling more in-depth user interviews. Something that I would recommend any listener who is becoming a tech founder, read the book The Mom Test by Robert Fitzpatrick. I think that's okay. If you look up The Mom Test, you'll
We'll
see
link
it.
it in the show notes.
And this is it's an incredible book and insight into user interviews and how to make sure that you're conducting them in a non-biased way, and to make sure that you're not just getting the wrong data and getting to the root of what your customers are actually wanting. Because when they download, if you're friends and family, they're probably going to lie to you and say, oh, I love this, it's
It's
a great idea,
amazing.
it's amazing. So it's kind of like a rubric and a framework of how to speak to even friends and family to get the real advice and get the real truth of how they feel about your product. So
That's a great tip.
Yeah, I would highly recommend reading that before even talking to any customer.
Amazing. Okay, so now you're kind of gearing up for launching into the App Store. How are you thinking about launch and how you're going to go about kind of acquiring your users in those really early days? You guys doing like a launch event, influencers? What's the plan?
Yeah.
Or is that top secret?
Oh, no. No, it's not top secret. I mean, so far, and I think this is something that I say to a lot of people building businesses, and I think it also relates to CPG brands, anyone that's building a business, is start the community before you launch, before you have a product. Because if we were to just launch in the App Store and then make the Instagram the same day, like no one would be there. Like it would be crickets. Like that's not how you launch something, right? So we started the Instagram and the TikTok a while ago, just to start building the community, start to rally up who the audience was, who was the target audience, who was gravitating towards the brand and the product and what we were trying to build. So we started those channels, and it was pivotal for us because not only did people get a behind the scenes look at building a tech company from a female founder perspective, but they also got little sneak peeks into the product before it was available. They get all these little, UI sneak peeks and breakdowns of the different features, and then also just like recommendations, cool spots around LA. So TikTok was the biggest driver of organic growth for us. We started posting on TikTok, and I'm like appalled by how immediate the return was. Basically, every beta tester you see on Camber right now is came directly from TikTok. So that proved to us that that's where our market is. That's where our target audience is. So honestly, I still post 2 to 3 times a day on TikTok. It is exhausting. We can talk about content as well, but I think it was so pivotal to create the community beforehand and get that core base, because those are the people that are going to be evangelists for your brands. Those are the people that are going to be so loyal and spread it to their friends when you do launch, right? So creating that initially is super important. So when we launch into the App Store, honestly, it's going to be just a ton more of those types of organic growth channels. And then we are going to create little like ambassador pods within LA. We'll start with LA just because it's what Lauren and I know best. And working with creators to make Camber their hub for their favorite places, and a tool that their audience can just quickly save all their favorite places to their profile. Because right now, you can you'll see you'll see your favorite creators post on Instagram highlights. I feel like is a place where people put their favorite places, or travel itineraries, but it's very difficult for you to then take that highlight and put it into a Google map or something. So we are going to be working with creators to make sure that all their recs are on the platform, so that everything again is in one place for you. But so that's kind of a lot of how I spend my time now, is prepping for that launch and what that would look like. Like, yes, we'll do, party, we'll do all the fun stuff, PR, we'll do podcast tour, all the different arms, but honestly, it's going to be about the network effect. And another good book, hold on, another tangible step, The Cold Start Problem by Andrew Chen. This guy is the like number one guy on network effects, marketplaces, and like community building, basically, and how you scale those like crazy network effects. So that like everything in this book is exactly what we're going to be trying to do, because we're building a marketplace. We're building a two-sided, a supplier, the people who are the ones that put the really cool recs on there, and then the users who discover, use it as a tool to then build out the trip of their dreams.
Let's talk about TikTok for a second, just because you mentioned it before. And I just feel like we're in this weird time where founders are all of a sudden also these really public faces of their brand. And there's this one channel that's just, once you crack it for everyone, is just driving crazy growth across the board, CPG, tech, everyone. And you say you're doing 2 to 3 videos a day, which seems to be pretty standard. Folks who are like doing well on TikTok are all saying they're doing 3 videos a day. How are you creating that kind of content while also running a business? Are you batching it? Are you doing it on the fly? Do you have someone helping you? What's the process?
So it's funny that you mentioned that it's expectant of I think female founders in particular to be forward facing, which is, for me, I love it because I have a podcast, so I'm very comfortable, putting myself out there on the internet. Uh, but it's interesting that a lot of female founders, like if you're a little more private or you're not as comfortable on the internet, it's very difficult to put yourself out there. I've been through so much just like internal reflection on on like exposing yourself and being vulnerable on the internet. It is so fucking difficult that it's just interesting that it's an interesting moment. It's such great. On one hand, it's an amazing marketing tool and it's amazing way to feel connected to the brands. But then on the other hand, as you said, it is very time consuming and it is difficult. So how do I do it while running the business? I would like to say that I batch it. It's probably the better answer. And honestly, when I do, it just takes so much time. But I think that is the better strategy is to batch it. Like do one day where you at least, create all the content and then post it along. I do it on the fly. I think of the content on the fly and the topics, and then a lot of it is also going out into LA and filming things. So for us, we highlight a lot of cool places around LA or like different not itineraries, but different lists basically. So I'll just pick I'll just like pick a topic and then I try to make it as niche as possible, like top romantic restaurants in LA or date spots or whatever, best pasta, best rooftops, whatever the case is, and then do it that way. But honestly, now it's been really interesting the past week or so, people have been commenting saying, "Where should I take my mom for her first time coming to LA?" Or help, I have a birthday party for like 15 people, but I want it to be casual, not too expensive. Where do I go? And so that has been really interesting because then I just respond to those comments with a video and just like talk through it. Those are super, it doesn't take long for me to film those and edit those, but it does tap into a specific need, right? Like people are looking for hyper specific customized recs. So for us, we've thought a lot about something like that. Like, what if we monetize that type of exchange? Like, what if you could request an itinerary from your favorite creator, like Tinks?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Like, what if I was like, "Hey, Tinks, can you tell me where to go for my bachelorette party in Miami?" And I could say
Yeah.
that Tinks kind of gave me. So it's that type of thinking where I'm just now I'm in this like absorption phase, right? Like I'm seeing what people are asking of us, are needing from us, and then thinking about how to incorporate that into the business.
It's so interesting speaking to someone at this stage of the business where you're pre-launch really. It's really interesting hearing how you're thinking about it. I can't wait to see when this goes live.
Thank you.
It's going to be awesome. I want to talk about the podcast for a sec here, purely like selfishly. And anyone, if they're interested in starting a podcast, there'll be tips in the next couple of minutes for you. How did you guys get started with OK Sis?
All right. The origin story of OK Sis. So we started the podcast about 3.5 years ago, which also is crazy that it's been that long. Basically, Scout, my sister, had her own podcast, and I went on it as a guest, and we had this hilarious banter. And we always have. Obviously, we're sisters. We grew up together, but putting it on the mic, it was the funniest. And not only was it funny for us, but people loved the episode, and there was just this energy that I think people that resonated with people. So my sister is such a go-getter. She's taught me so much about and I'm sure we'll talk about this, like advice for people wanting, like looking to start for something. And I know it's the most annoying piece of advice, but you have to just fucking do it. Like you just have to start. You have to tell someone, literally tell the person you're most scared to tell, because then you will be held accountable. And we say this to everyone. And I was very, very fearful of starting a podcast. I was a huge consumer of podcasts. I love listening to them. I've been listening to them since before they were even that popular. And I was like, what do I have to say? Like, why would I do a podcast? Like, there's so many women-oriented podcasts that interview female entrepreneurs and people. Like, why do I need one? And that was terrible thinking, first of all, limiting belief and fear. And those were just constraints that I wasn't strong enough yet to push through. And thank God my sister was just has the temperament and the grit that she does, because she was like, no, 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 we're doing it. And we launched it in like 2 days. Like we literally just recorded something and we put it out there, and we have not missed a Monday since. So what I'll say about podcasting is, when I first started it, honestly, and I'm gonna be honest, like it was so that I had an excuse to talk to my girl crushes. I thought it was, and I still think it's like such a scam, podcasting, because in what other medium can you just reach out to someone and say, hey, can I have an hour of your time to ask you any question that I want? Like, no, they're not going to say yes to that. So honestly, it was an amazing way for me to just, I was so in this phase of my life where I was so curious. I really didn't know what my passion or purpose or whatever was. I kind of struggled a lot in my early 20s about not really having that like guiding light. And I said, okay, the podcast, if anything, it'll just help me have a platform to connect with these women that I really want to learn from. So that's how it started. And then an ancillary benefit was that we grew this incredible community that I just didn't even realize people were listening to us. And then it grew to this great loyal audience that has been more fulfilling than any part of the recordings and of the actual podcast. And we connect with, as I said in the very beginning, we're two Jewish sisters. Like we didn't come from an audience. We're not influencers. Like we didn't come from a built-in audience. So like when we were building community, it was like very, very grassroots. Like we would get on the phone. Like I still do. I still meet up with girls in LA that live in LA that listen to the podcast. My sister, everyone that she's hired at her agency has been listeners of OK Sis. We get on phone calls when people are having mental health issues. It's that is community, right? That one-on-one, very intentional. You're taking time out of your day to really foster it, and the people that are there. It's funny that community has been such a buzzword lately, and people are trying to like growth hack it in a way. Like, how do we get, and it's not about quantity, right? Like, of course, maybe you want to grow your audience, but the community is it needs to stay very intimate and very core, right? And so I've learned so much from the podcast, not only about myself and growing a project and growing something and treating it like a business. But I've learned so much about internally, who I am, what I have to offer, what value do I bring to these episodes, right? Like, what am I saying? What do I want to leave as a legacy almost? And all of that is translated into Camber. I honestly would never have been able to do Camber, have had the confidence, have had the strength, the mental strength to do it if it weren't for the podcast. So if anything, if you're listening and you want to start a podcast, like it's one of the most engaging forms of media that we have. Obviously, it's long form, it's deep, it's you don't connect like this with anything else, right? It feels so different than any other platform. So I would recommend it.
Totally. It feels so much more intimate. Like think about even if you have a really small amount of people listening in the early days, they are like walking around with their voice in your head for an hour a week. That is really powerful connection.
So powerful. I mean, think about the podcast that you love and how much you feel like they're your friends. Like, I get more starstruck when I meet a podcaster than when I would like if I ever met a celebrity, right? Like, it's just this different connection.
Yeah, I agree. So, the last thing that we kind of ask everyone who comes on the show, and you've given us a couple of awesome resources already, but I just want to make sure that I have like shaken the tree. Like, do we have all of your book recommendations? What else have you got before you go?
Ooh, book recommendations. So,
And podcasts, whatever you've got.
oh gosh, okay, here we go. Other book recommendations. Well, first of all, I just like would like to tell the people that are listening. I am a very avid romance novel reader. Okay, so these book recommendations are going to be different than my romance novel TikTok. If you follow me on TikTok, okay, because if you're into that, then follow me on TikTok because I review a lot of romance novels there. Okay, but in terms of more businessy, more like psychology type stuff, my favorite book in the entire world is Grit by Angela Duckworth. It wholeheartedly wholeheartedly changed my life and my perspective on things. Another one is Mindset by Carol Dweck, I think it is. It talks all about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, also life changing. And then I'm going to say it like anything by Adam Grant. He is just like praise Adam Grant's supremacy. And let's see, other so podcasts. It's interesting because after having OK Sis, I feel very burnt out on podcasts almost. I I listened to so many business podcasts in my early 20s, like How I Built This and all the Masters of Scale, all those. I'm now getting back into ones like that. I love Business Casual by The Morning Brew. I love the 2% by Female Founders Fund. They interview a lot of amazing women, and I'm trying to get back into other than the conversations I have with founders on my podcast, trying to get back into more businessy side of things. And then I love like the Expanded podcast by Lacey Phillips. I'm a big manifester. I'm into manifestation.
Yeah, I love Lacey Phillips. Big fan.
She is uh when people say like the universe, I say Lacey Phillips. Like I like when things happen, I'm like, Lacey, you did it for me. Like,
Have you heard of Miss Excel, this chick that went viral on TikTok and she does Excel videos? Have you seen her? She was on Forbes and Business
no,
Insider.
but didn't you do a episode with her?
I did. Yeah, I interviewed her. And yes, she basically like said to me, I was working in a job that was fine. On the side, I was within my job teaching folks like in the organization Excel skills. And she said, I just spent a couple of weeks doing one of Lacey Phillips' programs and really like got in this mindset of I need to shake off whatever is holding me back from just being fun and silly on TikTok. And I'm just going to do it and put herself out there. And now she's earning like, I think she launched a course and did 100 grand in like 12 hours or something crazy. So
Oh,
Lacey Phillips,
it works.
bow down.
Yes, 100%. And I think look, I'm the biggest skeptic out there. I'm just going to like, and so my sister is very, very spiritual and she has tried to get me in spirituality for a long time. I'm not woo woo at all. And this is just feel her approach to manifestation is completely scientific. It's rooted in neuroplasticity and actual biology of the way our brain works. So if you're hesitant and you're like, oh, I'm not woo woo, it's not that. And it's just a lot of just examining you. Yeah, as she said, you let go of so much limiting beliefs, so many just programming that you've had from society, from childhood. You just are able to release it to like be your full self. And it's just such a better way to live. So I wouldn't recommend it enough.
Amazing. And just before I let you go, folks who want to download the app and test out Camber, where do they go? How do they do that?
You can go to our website, Camber app, CAMBERAPP.com. And there's a little QR code so you can scan it. Or if you do it on your phone, you can just click the button that says download and follow us on Instagram, Camber app, follow us on TikTok. We're fun over there at Camber app. And yeah, and follow me if you're on Camber, just search my name in the map and then you'll see all my recs.
Oh, Mady, you're a legend. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning into that episode of the Female Founder World podcast. I hope you loved it. If you did, I'm going to make the request that I do after every episode and ask that you drop us a 5-star review. It helps people find the show. It helps us grow, and it's just nice to see your feedback. So drop that 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts.